A new contender enters the race for the GOP nomination because, well, why wouldn't he? I guess at this point. It's enough of a circus. We will see what happens with that, and we will explore Miami Mayor Francis Suarez thinking that he can come back in and grab the nomination. In other news, Mike Pence tells the world that, you know what, no, let's not just talk about political persecution of a political enemy. Let me wait until I hear what the Uniparty has to say about Trump. And then I'll decide whether or not I'm going to pardon him. So we'll be talking about Mike Pence, what this means for the race, where this goes, and what we do from here. The US government is hit in a global cyber attack, including several NATO allies as well, so we'll go over what this means and how sometimes we look at this and think that this is a chance to go back and crack down on the internet. And Greg Abbott finds another sanctuary city to go bus migrants to, this time Los Angeles. It is going to be all of this and more, plus things that I like and things that I hate over here on Contemporary today. So strap yourselves in, grab some food, grab a snack, and get some friends in here. I was the one flying the balloons. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. Ladies, drink free. We've got a lot to go over here today. Still hanging out on the idea that most of what we have to go over here is left over from the past week. We haven't been able to move on a lot of stuff this week. Just because, well, as he usually does, the Donald sucks all the oxygen out of the room, and we've spent a lot of the last 5 days talking about that. I do have some Trump stuff on the top of the show. Fair warning. I've got some stuff to talk about there, but we will be going through this very quickly. We'll get done with that. I do want to talk about this Target thing before this falls out of the news, because again, I look at that and I say, man, I'm waiting to see an actual false flag here. And the way the Washington Post tried to frame this tells me that there is something that they're going to want to do to try to take some attention off of the fact that, you know, it's the Alphabet Mafia that's the one that's making the bomb threats, as much as the Washington Post is trying to tell us that it's not. So we'll go over that. We'll talk about the new contender. We'll talk about Pence. We'll talk about Biden going off script and having another gaffe, and Biden also coming out and snapping at people who are asking him about something they're not supposed to ask him about. the bribery scandal. No, let's not talk about that. So it's going to be all of that and more over here tonight. We've got a lot to do. We're going to cut at about an hour and 40 minutes tonight. And we're going to go over things that I like and things that I hate, because I took a lot of the stuff off of the stack today and put it over on things I like and things that I hate. So strap yourselves in, grab some friends, get something to drink, and hopefully something to eat. It's dinner time for most of you out here. And let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as the Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, Silent Caster, and Clone World Chronicles with Papa Palpatine, as we aim to bring you a better news and culture experience from the common man for the common man. That is right. For too long, we've all got our news from people who wear suits that cost more than our houses and people who hate us, and we should be getting news from people who are just like us. So go check out all that great programming. I can personally vouch for all those programs. They're awesome people. They care about you. They care about the direction that this country goes. So go check them out. And let's get started with what we have to go over here today. And we will start today with the finance, as we always do. Before we do that, I'm also going to bring the live chats up here so we can see what you guys are doing. Oh, the Biden bribe family. Boombox is getting ready with the bribe stuff today again. Hopefully we get some more of that rattling through the chat. That was fun yesterday, by the way. Just stopping every few minutes and finding another movie title to read. That was awesome. And if you guys, by the way, work together and set up another theme, it doesn't always have to be the Biden bribe. That's a lot of fun. I had no idea how fun that was. So if you guys can make up a game like that again, yeah, we'll play. We'll have some fun. All right, let's get into it. Starting with the Dow, Mogwai over here says, this is most Mike Pence has been talked about since he left Johnny Quest for himself. Nice. Good old Race Bannon from Indiana. Alright, the Dow spent the day up today at 34,408.06. That is up 428.73 points, or 1.25%. Fairly significant winning day for the Dow and the other markets as well. So if you've got a 401k that's heavy in the Dow, you're doing good. If you've got a 4 the S&P 500, you're starting to do really, really, really well. I don't know how long this is going to last. There are a lot of factors that are pulling off of this, and this does seem like a flash in the pan to me, especially given what we have seen over the past couple years. So we'll see what happens with that and where that goes. Looking in at your Bitcoin. The Bitcoin took a smiley face run today before spiking at the very end of the day, ending at 25,638.40. It fell down, it went down, dropping below the 25,000 mark for much of the day before coming back up and bringing itself up to 25,638.40. Not ready to buy the dip yet, still watching it, still seeing where it goes and what happens with it. We will see what happens there. Looking at your gas prices, unchanged over the past 24 hours in this market. Remember, the Madison market, which is sitting at $3.40 on the average, may not reflect your local gas prices. Check your local listings to see where you are at right now. But we do provide one single market that we've been watching all the way since the show started to see what the patterns are, what they're doing, and what they reflect across the rest of the country. One of the things, and the reason that I chose Madison, number one, it was close to where I used to live, but it was far enough away, like I wasn't giving away my own location at the time. But also, it's a fairly liberal area in what is considered to be, or was at the time, a very swing state. So, Evers, my governor, and the people who are sitting around there, in order to get reelected, do have to do whatever they can, manipulate taxes, manipulate markets, shipping lanes, to try to keep these prices somewhat low, as much as the market can bear. So your patterns and prices may actually be very different depending on the way that policy affects your area. So again, always go check your local listings. But for the most part, the pattern is the same because it's following what the market will demand off of the fuel. We will see what happens with that. Oh, that's a good one, Boomboxes. A bribe called Quest. Especially since we're going to be talking about Mr. Mike Pence today. I like that one. Dual Helix says the never-ending bribery. That's Washington, D.C. And Mogwai over on the main channel says Bribe Street. All right. Let's look at our finance article for the day. S&P 500 and NASDAQ rally for 6th straight day as traders hope Fed's rate hiking cycle is nearly over. From Brian Evans and Hak-Yoon Kim. Bribing Miss Daisy. There you go. Ha. The Dow on Thursday rallied more than 400 points and the S&P touched a fresh 13-month high. As investors bet the Federal Reserve was close to done raising rates after the central bank this week skipped a hike. The 30-stock Dow added 428.73 points, or 1.25, to close at 34,408.06. The S&P climbed to 1.22 to finish the session at 44,2584, while the NASDAQ gained 1.15 to close at 13,782.82. Bond yields were lower, while tech stocks continued to lead the market upswing in line with the trends on Wall Street in 2023. Thursday's gains brought the S&P and the NASDAQ to their highest intraday level since April of 2022. The key question for the market now is, can value and cyclical stocks catch up to growth in tech, said Dylan Creamer, co-chief investment officer at Certuity. If it does, then that momentum has the ability to help grind the market higher. The S&P is also riding the longest winning streak since November of 2021 and is headed for its strongest weekly gain since March. From its October closing low, the broader market index is up 23%. It's also risen 15% year to date. As for the NASDAQ, the tech-heavy benchmark is up more than 31% in 2023. In tech, shares of Microsoft and Oracle were higher with gains of about 3.2 and 3.5. Alibaba stock climb close to 3.2. So some of the things that we're going to be watching and seeing what's happening here and where we go with this and what happens. One of the things to watch is we are edging on a recession, but there are some things that are keeping us from dipping all the way into it. And I was looking at this with the housing market. One of the big things that's keeping us from falling into a full-on recession, number one, is Hong Kong. We've got our government-funded taxpayer-funded investment firms like BlackRock, who are buying up whenever they can, using taxpayer dollars, to try to hold the markets up. But one of the things, with what the Fed has been doing, if we were still running under adjustable rate mortgages, if that was the norm still, like it was in 2007, the economy would have already crashed. Most of us would be out of jobs at this point. We're still plunking along. We haven't seen a major amount of foreclosures or evictions at this point, based on the fact that, there are laws that are in place and there are a lot of people out there that just don't want to go to it, and people aren't being forced to sell their houses yet. We do need to keep in mind that wages have not kept up with inflation, and there are a lot of people on the edge with credit lines. And the bottom's going to drop out at some point. It's not going to be as fast as it was in 2007, 2008, but it's something to watch. I don't know if it's going to happen before Election Day. That's what I'm watching. That's what I'm waiting to see. We will see what happens with that and where that goes. Let's look at our layoffs report today, which is also affecting the way the economy is going. Mogwai says the economy would crash faster than Biden on a bike ride. Nice. Dual Helix says half bribed. Bribinator 2, no judgment day. There you go. Raiders of the Lost Bribe, kindergarten bribe. That's where a major leftoid or uniparty parent offers up their young child for a sniff to try to stay in Biden's favor because he is their deity for a lot of them. And Boomboxes says a princess bribe. All right, let's keep going. AT&T is not technically laying off, but it kind of looks like they're trying to find a way around saying they're laying off. AT&T's office mandates could be a covert way of trimming headcount. It's a layoff wolf in return to office sheep's clothing. From Jane Thier. John Stankey, CEO of AT&T, told 60,000 managers last month they had to return to the office starting in July, but that was a caveat. AT&T owns 350 offices in the US, and the workers would have to report to one of just 9 consolidated locations. That means workers in other states would have to move or quit. That's sneaky right there. If they want to be a part of building a great culture and environment, they'll come along on these adjustments and changes, Stanky said at the time. Others may decide, given the station of life they're in, that they want to move to a different direction. That may be underselling it. On the inside, workers told Bloomberg this week that they think Stanky's mandate is a covert attempt to trim the workforce without actually having to stomach the bad press of layoffs. It's a layoff wolf and return to office sheep's clothing, an AT&T manager anonymously said. An AT&T spokesperson did not immediately respond to a Fortune request for comment. AT&T's move seems to be the synthesis of many workers' worst-case scenarios, a compulsory return to the office, and the threat of losing the job. Leaders like Stanky and Google's Sundar Pichai met as Mark Zuckerberg, and Salesforce's Mark Benioff are flexing their leverage and doubling down on in-person work. Workers' preferences be damned, many are also contributing to the historic number of layoffs as they look to downsize after overhiring during the era of remote work. AT&T's mandate is a subtle way of doing both, workers say, so no numbers yet. We will see who goes voluntarily and who decides that it's time to go back and fight for that job. Maybe we'll get a major upheaval and a big move. We'll see what happens with that. I think it's shady as hell, but there are some other things that are shady as hell that are going on in here. Let's get into the main news of the day. Wait, no. Boomboxer says Bride Runner. I think we did that one yesterday. Yes. Boomboxer says 7 bribes for 7 brothers. But I don't think there's 7 in the Biden family. Julie Helix says, what does AT&T even do now? Nobody has a landline. AT&T is a cellular provider still. They bought up Singular. As far as I know, they're still going. I don't know anybody that has AT&T. But we're in an area that's very, very strongly covered by Verizon, so... But I know they're still doing cellular. The Breakfast Bribe. Moguai says, Village of the Bribed and Bidenhood Men in Bribes. This is a lot of fun, by the way. I'm kind of interested to see where this meme goes, especially as the news changes, and at some point the bribe is going to fall out of the news, but you guys are really creative, and we're going to probably see a lot more of this. Alright, let's talk from the Associated Press. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez announces GOP presidential bid days after Trump's indictment. From Adriana Gomez Licon. And here is the dude right there. Who was the guy that ran for the Democrat nomination last year? The Hispanic gentleman there, because I swear this guy looks like him. Although he may be a little bit taller. Castro. Julian Castro. He kind of looks like Julian Castro a little bit. Taller. Francis Suarez announced his bid for the Republican presidential nomination on Thursday, jumping into a crowded race just days after the GOP frontrunner Donald Trump appeared in court on federal charges in Suarez's city. The 45-year-old mayor, the only Hispanic candidate in the race, declared his candidacy in paperwork with the Federal Election Commission on Wednesday. He had previously teased an announcement, noting that he would be making a big speech on Thursday at the Reagan Library in California. You're the executive of Miami. Why the hell are you in Orange County? Well, Orange County, California, because there is an Orange County in Florida, by the way. Number one, you have traveled literally across the country into a state that even if you do get the nomination, won't give you a second look because you're a person of color who's off the plantation. And number two, your city is currently at the center of the news. This is not a serious candidate. I can tell you that right off the bat. Announcing his run on ABC's Good Morning America on Thursday, Suarez repeatedly tried to avoid answering questions about Trump's behavior and the charges in his indictment, saying he didn't know all the details about how he handled classified information. Nobody does, because nobody's seen the documents. When reminded that he was running against Trump, Suarez replied, "You see, that's where you're wrong. I'm running to be the president of the United States, and I'm running against Joe Biden's America. An America where the poor get poorer. An America where America gets weaker. An America where, if things don't change, China will be the lone superpower. That is what I'm running for." I need to learn more about this person, because that right there has got my attention. I don't know. Well, number one, I don't think this guy's going to go anywhere. He is at this point saying the right things. This may be a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing, or this may be a uniparty ploy again to get more delegates away from the Donald and push them in towards coalescing everybody behind Ron DeSantis. I guess I need to sit down and look at this person's platform. Suarez, you have my attention. I may be wrong at this point. This is my initial, by the way. I didn't know anything about Francis Suarez before I started reading this article. We'll see where this goes. And he didn't form an exploratory committee, as far as we know, to go back and try to figure it out either. Suarez, the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, is the son of Miami's first Cuban-born mayor. He has gained national attention in recent years for his efforts to lure companies to Miami, with an eye towards turning the city into a crypto hub and the next Silicon Valley. Suarez is vying to become the first sitting mayor elected president, joining a GOP primary fight that includes Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, and Chris Christie. Despite having a candidate field in the double digits, the race is largely seen as a two-person contest between Trump and DeSantis. But the other competitors are hoping for an opening, which Trump has provided with his myriad legal vulnerabilities, none more serious than his federal indictment on charges of mishandling sensitive documents and refusing to give them back. He pled not guilty on Tuesday to 37 felony counts. Before Trump arrived in the Miami courthouse on Tuesday, Suarez toured the media encampment wearing a t-shirt with a police logo, as the city's police force had jurisdiction over the downtown area. And also Suarez being the chief law enforcement officer of the city of Miami. Suarez has said he didn't support Trump in 2016 or 2020, instead writing in the names of Marco Rubio and then Vice President Mike Pence. Okay, you lost me. You had my attention for a second. You've lost me at this point. In 2018, Suarez publicly condemned Trump after reports came out that he had questioned why the U.S. would accept more immigrants from Haiti and Africa, which Trump described using a vulgar epithet. I mean, they are shithole countries. That's why the people are fleeing them. But the times have changed, with Trump advisors now praising Suarez's work and helping him promote what he calls the Miami success story. Trump's former White House counselor Kellyanne Conway has even floated Suarez's name as a possible vice presidential pick. And if you've got Kellyanne Conway's support, I also question that, by the way. Suarez, who is married with young children, is a corporate and real estate attorney who previously served as City of Miami Commissioner. He has also positioned himself as someone who can help the party further connect with Hispanics. In recent months, he has made visits to early GOP voting states as he weighed a possible 2024 campaign. He is more moderate than DeSantis and Trump, but has threaded the needle carefully on cultural issues that have become popular among GOP politicians. Suarez has been critical of DeSantis dismissing some of the state laws he has signed on immigration as headline grabbers, lacking in substance. Okay, you have my attention back. He has said immigration is an issue that screams for a national solution, at a time when many Republicans back hardline policies. The two-term mayor previously expressed support for Florida law championed by DeSantis and dubbed "Don't Say Gay" by opponents that bans classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in kindergarten through 3rd grade. But he has not specified whether he supported the expansion of the policy to all grades. Like other Republicans, Suarez has criticized DeSantis' feud with Disney at the same time, saying it looks like a personal vendetta. Well, my question for you, Suarez, is where do you stand on SB 269? Because that'll be the make or break point for me. I'm tangentially interested in Suarez at this point. I would like to see where this goes, and I'd love to interview the guy and just see where he stands on certain policies and prescriptions. We will see what happens with this. And again, the big one for me is he didn't go out and do the exploratory committee like Tim Scott, who I was also interested in, basically until he did the exploratory committee and said that he couldn't decide whether or not he was going to get in the race or not. So, there it is. Francis Suarez. We'll see. Alright, what do we got over here? Mokwai says Bidenhood, Men and Bribes. Nice, I like that one. I have not seen that movie since I was in elementary school. And I want to see that movie again kind of now. Now that I'm old enough to actually understand some of the jokes that were in it. I might see if I can find that streaming this weekend and watch that movie. Over. Dual Helix says Ferris Bribers, Day Off. Boomboxer says The Bribes of Madison County. Bribe and Deliver. The Biden Presidency Story. This is Dual Helix. Boomboxer says Stevie Wonder, Ebony and Bribery. Nice! Dual Helix says Bribed by Me and When Harry Bribed Sally. I believe that is the Me Too story. Alright, Francis Suarez. Worth keeping on your radar at least. And while we are talking about the Republican side of the nomination here, from the New York Post. Nazi flag wavers outside Disney World identified as hate group Order of the Black Sun. Yeah, nobody's heard of these people. From Ariel Zilber. The far-right demonstrators seen waving Nazi flags outside Walt Disney World in Orlando last week have been identified as a local organization known as the Order of the Black Sun, according to experts who specialize in hate groups. Ben Popp, an investigative researcher at the ADL. Oh, there we go, it's the ADL. Told the Orlando Sentinel that the group, which is known by the initials OBS, is a small white supremacist network based in the state of Florida. They formed earlier this year? You don't say! Maybe right about the time that they needed to start to go to events for Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump? From individuals who have been involved in other white supremacist groups and organizations in the state of Florida for the past couple years. Oh, the past couple years, you say? So these individuals are well known to us. Okay, can we get a mask off of them so we can run them through facial recognition and see if they've been at any other major events out there, like Charlottesville, perhaps? Or the Glenn Youngkin rally, perhaps? Can we name some names, maybe? Pop told the Sentinel that the OBS and other extremist organizations work together in the state of Florida in order to make themselves appear bigger than they are to both intimidate communities, but also to normalize their anti-Semitism and normalize their own other forms of hate as well. So they're well coordinated, like they almost have a central organization that's sending them out to places. Maybe someplace on the Virginia border of DC, perhaps, would be where they're organizing through to make sure that they get to these certain events. They want these things to be a common occurrence so that people will sort of get used to this and become desensitized. So they do this, but they only ever go to political hotspots, and they always seem to wave political signs. Like they want people of the opposite side from what they're perceived to be to associate a certain candidate with a certain behavior. I'm sorry to this moron from the ADL, but this doesn't do anything but make this even more suspicious. Name a name, unmask somebody, especially since you say you know who they are. That's really their whole goal, is to desensitize communities to their hate, Pop told the Sentinel. No, that's not their whole goal. Anna Escamani, a state legislator who represents Orlando in the Florida House, posted brief clips on her Twitter account Saturday showing several individuals waving flags with the infamous swastika, as well as other fascist symbols and homophobic signs outside the famous theme park. I bet they were all masked too, weren't they? Well, look at that, they're all masked. It's absolutely disgusting to see what's become a common presence of Nazis in Florida, and even more disturbing when they're holding signs and flags that signal support for people like Governor DeSantis. The person who is standing in opposition to Ron DeSantis said in a statement, "You have done nothing but make this look even more suspicious." Get the F out of here with this. Let's talk Pence, the title card of today's show. Mograi says fried green Bidens. Bribed green Bidens. That's what that one should have been. History of the Bribes, Part 1. Mr. Scott, coming back over to the YouTube side, says Bill and Ted's excellent bribe. Joe and Hunter's excellent bribe. Mogwai says, wearing masks saves lives. You need to thank them, just saying. Dual Helix says bribery is not included. Boomboxer says bribe of Frankenstein. And then says next grift incoming. Soon. Bribe lives matter. There we go. Nice one. Alright. From the Hill. Mike Pence says any talk of pardoning Trump is premature, from Julia Mueller. Former Vice President Mike Pence, who is running for the White House in 2024 on Wednesday, said any talk of pardoning former President Trump if he were to be convicted on the federal criminal charges he faces in classified documents case is premature. Well, first off, these are serious charges, he said with a gigantic grin on his face. And as I said, I can't defend what's been alleged. But the president does deserve to make his defense, and I would say to each one of you, look, I've been a former governor. I've actually granted pardons to people. Pence said on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show when asked whether he would pardon the former president. And I take the pardon of authority very seriously. Not that I'm going to do that to my former boss. It's an enormously important power of someone in an executive position to make sure that you do exactly what the Uniparty says to do with that power. And I just think it's premature to have any conversation about that right now, Pence said. Pence, who joined Trump's ticket in 2016, which was probably one of the worst mistakes of the presidency, is now running against the former president in the 2024 primary race after the pair lost their White House re-election bid in 2020. Trump pled not guilty. 37 counts, we know that. Fellow presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy has promised that if he wins the Oval Office, he will pardon Trump. Nikki Haley waffled around on it, but says she's inclined to do so. Pence has said he can't defend the very serious allegations Trump faces, but has also said it's hard for me to believe that politics did not play some role for the indictment, a sentiment he echoed during the Clay and Buck show. I think any conclusions by anyone running for the presidency of the United States would prejudge the facts of the case or prejudge the investigation into President Biden or his family is premature, Pence said, adding, "Let's let the process play out." Well, the process is going to play out politically one way for one candidate and politically the other way for the other candidate. Guess who's going to be found guilty and not guilty? One of the hosts again pressed Pence, arguing he was dodging the question, which he was. We'll be talking about that in just a second because Clay got his own article off of this one. Look, I don't think you know what the president's defense is, do you? I mean, what are the facts? I mean, look, we either believe in our judicial process in the country or we don't. We either stand by the rule of law or we don't, Pence said. Well, let's be realistic here. And again, the hardest part of any of this is the fact that nobody in this country, other than a handful of people at NARA, the Donald himself, and a handful of people with security clearance in the prosecution, in Jack Smith's political prosecution, even know what's in these documents. And there are a lot of people in this country who are rushing to judge without knowing what's in these documents, which is dangerous. And furthermore, again, the hardest part of this is the fact that none of us ever will. Most of the jury never will. But that's where they are at with that. But Clay Travis coming back, coming out swinging for this one. Is this a clip? No, this is the whole show. Alright, we're not going to do the whole show for this. Let's get rid of that. I was hoping that was just going to be a clip, but we will read from this. Clay Travis calls out disrespectful Mike Pence during tense interview when asked about pardoning Trump. From David Rutz over at Fox News. Let me quick check what you guys are doing over here. Dual Helix says Full Metal Bribe and the Bribes Brothers. Boombox says Close Encounters of the Bribe. Bribe Raiser. There we go. Mogwai says, a quarter for every time I suffered from premature pardoning. It happens to every guy sometimes, Mogwai. I don't even know if you're a dude. I'm not gonna lie. All I see is the Gizmo avatar. Mogwai says, get in the holiday spirit early with the 12 bribes of Christmas. Wait. Can't say Christmas. 12 bribes of the holidays. Bribing in the rain, says Boomboxes. Alright. Back to Pence. Conservative radio host Clay Travis called former Vice President Mike Pence pretty disrespectful to his old boss in a tense interview on Wednesday about whether the Republican presidential candidate would pardon Donald Trump if he elected president. Travis, who along with co-host Buck Sexton, has said the federal prosecution of Trump for mishandling classified documents is politicized, challenging Pence to directly answer if he would pardon Trump as a matter of principle. Look, these are serious charges, Pence said. I can't defend what's been alleged, but the president does deserve to make his defense. Let's see. Pence said the pardoning authority is an enormously important power for someone in an executive position, calling the idea of pardon premature, but the founder of Outkick wasn't pleased. I think as a matter of principle, if you believe Donald Trump is being prosecuted to a large extent for political-based reasons, something that's never been happened in the 240-plus year history of the U.S., then we're setting awful precedent here, Travis said. To me, what is gained by allowing Trump to be put in prison in the event he was convicted, we lose infinitely more by not just taking a principled stand and saying, as a matter of principle, this shouldn't happen, he added, with all due respect. What you aren't telling us what your decision would be, I think you're dodging the question and, frankly, not stepping up on the front of leadership, which in the past you've been willing to do. To me, not answering is a no. Well, I think we all actually already know that it's going to be a no. Number one, because he's never going to have that authority. Mike Pence is not going to be the president of the United States. Pence shot back, I don't think you know what the president's defense is, do you? Pence said, we either believe in the judicial process or not, but Travis cut in saying, look, what I'm hearing is you're fine with Donald Trump being put in prison, sir. That, to me, since you were his vice president, feels pretty disrespectful. Sexton cut in as the exchange continued, as Pence said that prejudging the investigation into Trump, as well as President Biden for his potential mishandling of classified material, was premature. Look, I've been very, very open about this. Biden would probably jump up 20 points in approval tomorrow if he came out and said, hey, look, man, I told Merrick Garland to knock it off, man. Come on. I'm gonna beat Donald Trump. I'm gonna do it the right way, man. But all this, like with Pence and with Biden, both saying that they're fine with what's going on here and telling their people that it's the rule of law, instead of being partisanly political, as we see with this. It shows cowardice. If I was a Democrat running against Trump, if I was the incumbent running against Trump, I would pardon him. I would tell him, come at me with your full strength. Because I don't need to play dirty games to beat you. And honestly, with Trump, I really don't. Biden does, because Biden is a historically weak candidate. He needs to play dirty games to beat Trump. I wouldn't. So good on Clay Travis for that. The Hill reporting, Trump indictment poses political headaches for Biden, from Alex Gangitano and Brett Samuels. Let's look over here. Mokwai says, have we asked for the bribe's pronouns? We have not. Let's see. Oh, you guys have a lot of them here. Boombox says bribing in the rain and taxi briber. 10 things I bribe about you, says Julie Helix. Boombox says the good, the bad, and the bribery. That was not on yesterday, but that's a good one. Julie Helix is bribeless. This one I don't get. Tu Wong Fu bribe for everything. I don't get that one. Julie Helix says the bribe lot. The classic coming of age story. Boombox says all bribes on the Western Front. Helix says gone with the bribe, and Boombox says bribesmaids. Dirty bribes done dirt cheap. Bring music into this too. I'm gonna be, well, I'm not mad at you guys because you guys are helping to aid on the show. But if YouTube decides that talking about bribes is a bannable offense, me and Pachai are going to have words. I will find a way to get into his office. It won't be easy. I won't hurt the guy, but me and Pachai are going to have words. You guys keep doing what you're doing. I like that. But that does seem like the next thing that that Google and YouTube would use to silence dissenting voices. Alright, from the Hill, Trump indictment poses political headaches for Biden. As kind of what I just mentioned there a moment ago. From Alex Gangitano and Brett Samuels. President Biden is facing an unprecedented task with no easy solution. Dealing with the federal indictment of a former president, while fighting off unsubstantiated claims by the right that... Why did they editorialize like that constantly? Well, I mean, we all know why, but why do they do it so nakedly and openly? At least attempt to be objective. Good God. While fighting off unsubstantiated claims by the right that Biden is involved with his political opponent's prosecution. He's absolutely involved. He's the chief law enforcement officer of this country. Like, really? A Fox News chyron deemed Biden a wannabe dictator during the Trump speech on Tuesday following his arraignment. Trump himself decried Biden as corrupt sitting president, who in tandem with the Justice Department was targeting the frontrunner for the 2024 GOP presidential nomination. Meanwhile, Republicans on Capitol Hill have been constantly attacking the White House, accusing Biden of politicizing the Justice Department, which he is. Biden and his aides have repeatedly stressed in recent days that they've had no contact with Jack Smith or A.G. Garland about the Trump case. Biden has vowed throughout his presidency that he would restore a sense of independence from the Justice Department, of which he is the lead, after Trump routinely weighed in on or called for investigations during his 4 years in the White House. Still, the White House must convince some skeptical Americans that the president is sticking to that pledge, as leading Republicans paint the Justice Department's indictment of Trump as a political maneuver against the Biden's top rival. It's because it is. Biden was asked last week, hours before Trump was indicted, why Americans should have faith in the Justice Department. Because we got rid of the evil orange man. Because you'll notice that I've never once, not one single time, suggested to the Justice Department what they should or should not do. Unless, of course, it's the Chauvin case or the Rittenhouse case. Relative to bringing a charge or not bringing a charge. And I'm telling the truth, man. Come on. Biden responded. But that doesn't seem to be resonating with voters. An ABC News Ipsos survey published Sunday found nearly half of those polled from a variety of political affiliations said they believe the charges against Trump are politically motivated. In a CBS News survey published the same day, 76% of likely Republican voters said they were most concerned about the indictment being driven by politics, compared to 12% who said that they were concerned by the national security risks posed. White House Press Secretary, token diversity hire, reiterated this week that the Biden respects the rule of law and wants to make sure that that we restore the integrity of the Department of Justice. On Wednesday, she took a stab at Fox News for the wannabe dictator chyron. In the most cringe-inducing response that she could have done. Look, there are probably 787 million things I can say about this that was wrong about what we saw last night, she said, referring to the $787 million settlement between Fox News and Dominion Voting Systems. Who wrote that for her? She did not come up with that off the top of her head. I know better than that. And yes, this is absolutely politically motivated. Merrick Garland will get the last word on the indictment, defending Jack Smith. Meanwhile, let's see. Boomboxer says Bonnie and bribe. And cool bribe Luke. Goodwill bribing, that's a good one. West bribe story, says Boomboxes. Witness for the Persecution is a good movie. Nice. Never heard of it. Mogwai says, get your vaccine for bribe at 19. Mr. Scott says, Mel Gibson in Bribeheart and The Wedding Briber. Alright, A.G. Garland defends special counsel in first comments about Trump indictment. From Kevin Bräuninger. A.G. Garland on Wednesday defended the special counsel who pursued the criminal charges against Trump, his first public remarks on the former president's indictment. Garland, however, declined to go into further detail about the prosecution over his handling of classified documents. "Oh look, as you know, I can't talk about the particulars of this or any other ongoing criminal matter," Garland told reporters at the start of the meeting with U.S. attorneys at the Department of Justice. He had been asked to share when he first learned that special counsel Jack Smith was moving toward an indictment. The questioner also referenced the recent swell of criticism from Trump's allies and other Republicans who have accused the DOJ of being weaponized. "As I said when I appointed Mr. Smith, I loved the work that his wife did in the Michelle Obama autobiography. It made Michelle Obama seem like an amazing person and painted the Democrat Party in such a wonderful light. And he's assembled a group of experienced and talented prosecutors who love going after Republicans and agents who share his commitment to integrity, rule of law, and Democrat hegemony," Garland said. "Any questions about this matter will have to be answered by their filings in court," he added. A spokesman for the special counsel declined to comment. Yeah, we know where he sits on this. Moving on to the bribery scandal. Oh, sorry, I meant prosecution. Nice. Bribing Hood Prince of Bribes. Speaking of bribes, from the Daily Wire. Biden snaps at reporter who asks him about alleged bribery scandal. From Daily Wire News, no author given. And we have video. President Biden snapped at a reporter during a press conference on Thursday after the reporter asked him about an alleged scandal involving a bribery scheme that Biden is accused of being involved in while he was vice president in the Obama admin. Let's listen.
Why did the Ukraine FBI informant file refer to you as the Why is that term particularly applied? Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Right, ask such a dumb question.
Thanks so much. Why did the Ukraine FBI informant file refer to you as the Why is that term particularly applied? Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Right, ask such a dumb question.
Thanks so much.
Just so you know, if the Donald ever had dared to ask this directly, and I don't like to do whataboutism, but if the Donald had ever dared to ask such a question directly to a reporter, this wouldn't be a niche article. On a fairly partisan website that half the country is going to dismiss as Nazi propaganda. This would be front page news on every single mainstream outlet. And again, I say this given the fact, and again, what did I say when I started talking about the bribery scandal? When I started talking about going after the Donald, and even when I was talking about the debt ceiling deal. This man here has a captive mainstream media who is going to go out of their way to either avoid talking about things like this, cover up for things like this, or let the man come back out here and actually get away with saying things like this. Even coming up and saying that he's in the right to do so. Biden doesn't want to talk about this. So he can just come back out and say, "Hey, you're dumb, man." And then next question. But Republicans, with their endless ability to self-sabotage, maybe they don't exist. Republicans question the legitimacy of alleged audio recordings of Biden bribery scheme. I do need to hear the audio. But I'm also not in the GOP. I'm not a Republican. I'm an objective person. These are people who should be united against the frontrunner. Yes, maybe they should have their conversations in private with each other. Okay, do these actually exist? Can we hear something? Can we do something about this? But as far as what they're saying to CNN, this should not be it. Oh, we've got some comment here. Boomboxer says all the bribes men. That's a good one too, by the way. Costner in Briber World. Okay, Water World. Easy Briber is a good one. Boomboxer says Biden was stopped and asked about the bribe the other day. He laughed and said, "Hey, where's the money, man?" Corrupt fucker knows he did it. Yeah, he knows. Boomboxer says Yankee Doodle bribery and do the bribe thing. Mogwai says Dr. Bribe Little, Dark Side of the Bribe. Another bribe in the wall. Mr. Scott says Edward Briber hands. Mogwai says down with the bribeness. BNN, Bribe News Network. No, they're not doing a lot of bribe news over there. Alright, let's read from CNN. Chuck Grassley claimed this on the Senate floor earlier this week that the foreign national who allegedly bribed then Vice President Biden and his son Hunter has 17 audio recordings of their conversations, but questioned whether those tapes even existed in an interview with CNN days later. I don't even know where they are. I just know they exist. Because of what the report says now, maybe they don't exist. But how will I know until the FBI tells us? Are they showing us their work? Grassley said on Thursday. And Grassley is not the only Republican questioning the validity of the supposed tapes. House Oversight Chairman Jim Comer of Kentucky, who's overseeing the investigation, has been quick to make the alleged bribery scheme a focus of his work, admitted not knowing whether the tapes were legitimate. Well, again, if you have the goods, you can show the American people. I don't know that I would have come out to announce the fact that you thought that they were there before you actually had made contact with them. Because now we've got a situation of, oopsie, I spilled coffee on these tapes and now they can't be recovered. Oh no! We don't know if they're legit or not, but we do know that a foreign national claims he has them, Comer said of the alleged recordings during a Tuesday interview at Newsmax. Jim Jordan, who also serves on the oversight panel and has made the Department of Justice and FBI target of his investigative efforts, told CNN of the tapes, "I have no reason to doubt anything Grassley says, but I don't know if they exist or not." I don't either. Grassley doesn't. And when he made the statement, I legitimately believed that he had seen evidence of the fact that he had the tapes. Now I'm having a little bit of a problem with Mr. Grassley because, again, with something like this, you should not spill the goods and show your hand before you're absolutely sure you've got a winning one. It was a good bluff, but a lot of people saw through it. You do need to find the tapes and show the American people now. Because otherwise, again, this is going to look like a partisan witch hunt. We'll see. Biden goes off script and promises to build a railroad across the Indian Ocean, prompting mockery. It's ambitious, from Joe McKinnon. President Biden promised to build a railroad across the world's third largest ocean just minutes after 4 environmental activist groups jointly endorsed his re-election campaign. While the proposal did not immediately prompt any takebacks from his Green supporters, Biden's blue ambitions prompted parody and concern online. Do we have video of him doing this, by the way? Yes, we do! Ha ha!
Well, we're going to win and we're going to help. We have plans to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across the Indian Ocean. We have plans to build in Angola, one of the largest solar plants in the world. I can go on, but I'm not. I'm going off script. I'm going to get in trouble.
Number one, you are the chief law enforcement officer of this country. Who are you going to get in trouble from? Number two, and 81 million votes, folks. That's number two right there. 81 million votes. Just before he started his speech, 4 major communist groups, or green groups as they're referred to here, LCB Action Fund, Next Gen PAC, Natural Resource Defense Council Action Fund, and the Sierra Club, all heavily Marxist, announced their support for his 2024 campaign, reported Politico. The president zeroed in on their preeminent concern, the specter of an anthropogenic climate change, stressing that it was the only truly existential threat. Biden then proceeded to describe some of the ways his admin has worked to address the abstract threat. Midway through his speech, Biden admittedly went off script with a promise spanning 6,200 miles. We have plans to build a railroad from the Pacific all the way across the Indian Ocean, he said. We have plans to build in Angola one of the largest solar plants in the world. Globalists will be pleased. I can go on, but I'm going off script. I'm going to get in trouble, man. The Indian Ocean, which has a mean depth, 374.1 meters, stretches from the southern tip of Africa all the way to Australia. Yeah, I'd actually kind of love to see what it is that they plan to use to anchor this in the middle. 374 stories down. Seems like you'd need a lot of steel, which means you need a lot of mining. Let's have a look, shall we? But pan out just a little bit because they dropped the pin pretty much right on location here. Google Maps can't find world map, even though we're looking at a world map. So this is the Indian Ocean right here. Even going from here to here, Mozambique, to India proper, would be a feat in and of itself, or from India proper to Australia would be a feat in and of itself. But Biden is suggesting that we go basically from South Africa, maybe Madagascar even, but I mean that would be almost pointless at this point, to Australia, because that is across the Indian Ocean. For the record, that is about the same distance, approximately, as the tip of Somalia to the tip of Mauritania. That is building a single railway with nothing to support it underneath, because you have to go down 374, meters, I guess. That makes it even worse, actually, because a meter, I was thinking of that as feet, but a meter is 3 feet. 1,000 stories in some places to get an anchor off of this, to build a railway that would, hypothetically, if it was going off land, would go from St. Petersburg to Japan. That is 1.5 transcontinental U.S. railroads. One and a half times from D.C. to Sacramento. Just to give you an idea of what they're trying to do here. I don't know that that works or not. For those of you listening on the audio platform, you'll have to look at a map for yourselves. $80 million votes, folks. Interesting take on this from the Daily Wire. How Democrat Party infighting could hand RFK Jr. the first two 24 primary contests over Biden. From Zach Jewell. Let's get the live chat back up here. Let's see. Mogwai says silence of the bribes. It puts the bribes on the skin, or it gets the hose again. It puts the bribes in the basket, or else it gets the hose again. It puts the bribes in the bank account, or else it gets the hose again. Did Diners Club endorse him too? Apparently. Over on Rumble's side. Where did we leave off over there? Do the bribe thing, says Boomboxes. Rebel without a bribe. That's Trump at this point. Rebel without a bribe. American Bribery X. Dual Helix says, I know who you bribed last summer. You conjugated that right too. That's awesome. Ernest bribed stupid. Ernest bribed Biden? For a few bribes more, says Boomboxes, Harry Potter and the half-bribed prince. Dual Helix, Das Bribe. Boomboxes says, the bribe supremacy. The social bribe network, which is also an accurate way of describing Washington, D.C. New Biden movie, The Untouchables. Bribe Bill Volume 1, which was the first term Clinton. Bribes and misdemeanors. A beautiful bribe. Biden looking in the mirror with Goodbye Horses. I'd bribe me. Goodbye Horses playing. Okay. Yeah, man, I'd bribe me. Alright, let's read from the Daily Wire. RFK Jr. is seeking to pull off the most improbable political upsets in American history. And the Democrat Party infighting could give the long-shot candidate a much-needed early boost. I don't think he's as long-shot as you guys seem to think that he is. I don't think it's great for him, but I don't think he's quite as long-shot as you guys think that he is. Controversy over which states will be the first voters in the 2024 Democratic primary is leading to an increasingly likely scenario where the sitting president won't be on the ballot in the first two primary contests. According to a report from Axios, if Iowa and New Hampshire Democrats buck the DNC's proposed changes to the primary schedule and move forward with voting first, President Biden's team indicated that the president won't put his name on the ballots, seemingly ignoring that Iowa and New Hampshire will even hold a caucus and a primary. The potential shakeup would put RFK Jr. as the leading Democratic candidate and most recognizable name on the two states' ballots. That's not going to do anything for RFK Jr., I hate to tell you. And that is, again, even assuming that he plans to attempt for the nomination and not just get a book-selling deal. RFK Jr. is not going to be the president. He's not going to be the nominee. The DNC decided in February to make South Carolina the first primary state after President Biden said he wanted the Palmetto State to vote first. The DNC was motivated by a desire to put black voters at the front of the process, upending years of tradition where Iowa and New Hampshire were the first states to vote for the Democrat and Republican presidential nominees. For decades, man, them black folk, to help and have been the backbone of the Democrat Party. We promised them to do them stuff and then let them come out of the redlined area for a day and then shove them back into the redline area. And they're pushed back to the back of the early primary process, man. Biden wrote in a letter last December. Look, Fat, we rely on these voters in elections, but have not recognized their importance in our nominating calendar. Meanwhile, they, as a rule, don't typically vote for anybody other than you anyway, so it doesn't matter what order they're in. They're not going to just simply start voting Republican because you won't put South Carolina first. They should, but they won't. It's time we'd stop taking these voters for granted, man, and time to give them a louder and an earlier voice in the process. The move angered Democrats in Iowa and New Hampshire to comply with the DNC's recommendation. New Hampshire would need to amend state rules, and the New Hampshire Democrats openly bashed Biden for bumping them down in the primary schedule. Senator Jeanne Shaheen called the decision process flawed, saying the top party officials had their own agenda from the start. No shit, Sherlock. While Iowa Democrats were not as openly upset with Biden and the DNC, Iowa Democratic Chair Rita Hart voiced some frustrations with the DNC process. Hart said the decision showed Democrats had stopped caring about rural voters, which is true, by the way, adding that it demonstrated that Democrats had turned their back on Iowa and rural America, which is also true, by the way. In May, Iowa Democrats said they would move forward with holding their caucuses on the same day as Republicans, keeping with tradition. The Iowa Democrats' proposal to keep the caucus on the same day as Republicans will go to the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee, which will review the party's primary plan on Friday in Minneapolis. Axios reported the DNC must work through state laws, party rules, and the state party proposals before the primary schedule is officially set. Fight? Alright, and the last one we have on presidential politics comes to us from Arizona. We've got a back-to-back pair from CNN, but they're on two completely different topics. Arizona Democrats sue to keep the no-labels candidates off of ballots, from Eric Bradner. The Arizona Democrat Party said on Thursday it's suing to keep the business-friendly centrist group No Labels from being recognized as a political party with the ability to place candidates on the state's ballot. No, we're not worried about losing our hegemony. The lawsuit is an effort to keep a third-party candidate from playing a spoiler role in 2024, when Arizona, where President Biden edged former President Trump out by just 10,000 votes in 2020, is poised to be a critical presidential swing state. Democrats have also fretted that independent Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who left the Democrat Party last year, could also seek re-election on the No Labels party line, reducing the number of signatures she would need to qualify for the ballot. The Arizona Democratic Party said it filed a complaint in Maricopa against Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, a Democrat who earlier this month recognized the No Labels party, granting it the ability to place the state candidates on primary and general election ballots. After saying the group had met the minimum signature requirement, Fontes' office on Thursday did not respond to a request for comment. You notice who isn't suing to keep another political party off the ballot? The GOP. Have you noticed that? It's almost like they're not worried about this. Let's see. The Arizona Democrat Party said it filed a complaint in Maricopa court against Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, a Democrat who earlier this month recognized the No Labels party, granting it the ability to place candidates on the primary and general election ballots. after saying the group had met the minimum signature requirement. Bonta's office on Thursday did not respond to a request for comment. Again, if you are confident in your position coming into this election, you know that you'll hold on to the votes that you have. Democrats seem to know, especially in purple Arizona, that their shit didn't play well this election cycle. If you were confident in your position, you wouldn't be worried about this. And it appears that No Labels Party is set to go peel off Democrat votes, in much the same way people claim the LP peels off Republican votes, which to some extent actually is true. I will give it that. Mr. Hazel seems to laugh more at Republican candidates than he does at Democrats when he plays spoiler every single race in Georgia. No Labels is registered as a nonprofit and does not disclose its donors, which the state party argued means it does not meet the requirements for a political party. Yeah, you're going to have to disclose those if you become a political party, including disclosing donors, registering with the Federal Election Commission, and following contribution limits. That is a fair assessment, by the way. It's not made in good faith, but that actually is a fair assessment. No Labels is not following the rules for political party recognition while attempting to be placed on the ballot alongside actual functional political parties who do. Arizona Democratic Party Executive Director Morgan Dick said in a statement. That guy sounds like a dick. No Labels chief strategist Ryan Clancy shot back at the state party's actions are hypocritical. This undemocratic and unscrupulous lawsuit is a disgrace, he said, in a statement posted on No Labels' Twitter account. Next time you hear this crowd talking about protecting democracy, remember that they're actually doing is protecting their turf. Geez, I've been saying that for a horribly long time. And with full admission that I took it from John from the Porch Boys. And that they're not talking about... When they say our democracy, we need to protect our democracy, it is, we need to protect our hegemony. Like I got pinged on something over on Discord. We'll see what happened there. But yeah, they're not worried about democracy. If they were worried about democracy, they'd have as many people on the ballot as they can and still know that they could beat them. They're not worried about that. They're worried about cornering their hegemony. All right. And right before we jump off of this topic and go to the next one, let's look over here. Boom boxes. Let's see. Who bribed Roger Rabbit? Let's see. A Beautiful Bribe. Bribe Me If You Can. Bribed and Confused. The Bribe Before Christmas. Who bribed Roger Rabbit? Dual Helix says The Cable Bribe. No, it's not too much. Boomboxes. How to bribe your dragon. I tried to delete that joke because it's a little too much, but I don't know how to delete comments on Rumble. Mutiny on the bribery. Dual Helix says, yeah, you can say whatever you want, but you can't delete it. That's fine. Just keep throwing it in there. Alright, let's talk about the cyber attack, shall we? Exclusive U.S. government agencies hit in global cyber attack. From Sean Lingus. Several U.S. federal government agencies have been hit by a global cyber attack that exploits a vulnerability in and widely used software according to a top U.S. cybersecurity agency. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency is providing support for several federal agencies that have experienced intrusions affecting their MOVEit applications. Eric Goldstein, the agency executive director for cybersecurity, said in a statement on Thursday to CNN, referring to the software impacted. We are working urgently to understand impacts and ensure timely remediation. It was not immediately clear if the hackers responsible for breaching the federal agencies were a Russian-speaking ransomware group that has claimed credit for numerous other victims in the hacking campaign. And I've never once believed, by the way, that it's actually Russians that are doing this. Because every time we seem to have a major cyber attack, we get more rules and regulations on how we can use the internet. It's funny how that works. The Department of Energy was among other multiple federal agencies breached in the ongoing global hacking campaign. The department spokesperson confirmed to CNN, adding that the department took immediate steps to mitigate the impact of the hack after learning that records from 2 department entities have been compromised. The department has notified Congress and is working with law enforcement, the CISA, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the affected entities to investigate the incident and mitigate impacts from the breach, the spokesperson said in the statement. Which means they're going to make another law cracking down on the use of computers and the internet. An unnamed source familiar with the investigation told CNN that one of the Department of Energy victims is a contractor for Oak Ridge National Laboratory, which was first reported by Federal News Network. The CISA, I had it right the first time. I thought I got so used to saying CIA that I'd screwed that one up. A CISA spokesperson had no comment when asked by CNN who carried out the hack of federal agencies and how many had been affected. Agencies were much quicker Thursday to deny they'd been affected by the hacking than to confirm they were. The Transportation Secretary, or Security Administration rather, and the State Department said they were not victims of the hack. CISA Director Jen Easterly told MSDNC on Thursday that she was confident that there will not be significant impacts to federal agencies from the hacks because government's defensive improvements. But they're still going to have Congress pass another law. But the news adds to a growing tally of victims of a sprawling hacking campaign that began 2 weeks ago and has hit major U.S. universities and state governments. The hacking spree mounts pressure on federal officials who have pledged to put a dent in the scourge of ransomware attacks and have hobbled schools, hospitals, and local governments across the U.S. So we have been hacked along with the rest of the world at this point. From CBS, which I thought I had got through the I'll fix it next time. Apparently I have not on this. Let's do a little bit of refresh here. There we go. Maybe it was the other one. It might be the other one. U.S. cyber attack impacts federal agencies and NATO allies. From Andres Trier. Senior government officials are racing to limit the impact of what's believed to be a global cyber attack affecting U.S. federal agencies and allies, including NATO member countries. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency confirmed in a statement that it was providing support to several federal agencies that have experienced intrusions affecting their file transfer applications. One cybersecurity expert characterized the breach as the largest theft and extortion events in recent history. Victims include Johns Hopkins, University of Georgia, the BBC, and British Airways. So, going across the pond, boomboxes. This is affecting you too over there. Cybersecurity experts say the hacking gang has been active since at least 2014 and is believed to operate from Russia with the tacit approval of Moscow's intelligence services. CISA Director Jen Easterly identified the hackers as Clop ransomware. They're basically taking data and looking to extort it, Easterly said. I bet you if you do get a good trace off of this, you'll find it somewhere on the Virginia border over in Washington, D.C. Just call it a hunch. Brett Calhoun, a cyber threat analyst with MCSoft, told CBS that there were 47 confirmed victims so far, plus a number of, as of yet, unidentified U.S. government agencies. He added that Klopp claimed hundreds of organizations have been impacted. So far in this, they're only saying that it was Johns Hopkins, University of Georgia, a few unnamed U.S. government agencies, and the UK. They didn't go too much further into anybody else in the world. They said in the headline NATO allies, but no say in who they were. But again, weird when they decide that they want to go have a new crackdown on cybersecurity and people using the internet. All of a sudden we have a cyber attack again. Let's talk about Abbott. Boomboxes says zero dark bribery and British Airways are pure AIDS. Won't let anyone fly until you got the death jab. Mogwai says somebody better takes their Radix and Radaway if they find out where the hack came from. Just saying. Oh, because it glows. Nice. That took me a second. And I love Fallout, and that still took me a second. I love Fallout so much, I have the Brotherhood of Steel crest in the back of my pickup. Alright, from CBS Los Angeles. Greg Abbott buses migrants to Union Station. From Matthew Rodriguez, and that's not Union Station in New York. That's Union Station in LA. Greg Abbott announced that he has bused another group of migrants, this time to Los Angeles' Union Station on Wednesday. Texas' small border towns remain overwhelmed and overrun by thousands of people illegally crossing into Texas from Mexico because of Biden's refusal to secure the border, said Abbott. The pair of buses carrying 40 migrants arrived at the transportation hub on Wednesday. The Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles took them to St. Anthony's Croatian Catholic Church in Chinatown. It's abhorrent that the American elected official is using human beings as pawns in his cheap political games, Karen Bass said in a statement. Pot kettle, Karen Bass. And I don't care that the ADL is going to clip that and use that as racism. Pot kettle. In addition to basic needs and medical care, the migrants were provided with legal advocates, as they believe some may have court dates located in other states. This did not catch us off guard, nor will intimidate us, says Bass. Our emergency management, police, fire, and other departments were able to find out about the incoming arrival while the bus was on its way, and were already mobilizing along with nonprofit partners before the bus arrived. That's fine. This isn't... There is some political ploy to this, and this is causing the people on the right to say, oh, that's so base that they're going back out and doing this, but this is not. They're not doing this to got you with this. You've made campaigns, you've said on several news outlets that you wanted to be sanctuary cities and you wanted to take care of every migrant that came into this country in your sanctuary cities. They're not doing a gotcha, they're letting you help the way that you campaigned on. So I know why you're treating this like a gotcha, because you didn't actually mean what you said, but by what you've made statements on national television, you shouldn't be treating this as a major gotcha. Oh, we're changing our topics over on the Rumble side. Let me finish up with this article here, and then we will go check into that. Advocates denounced Abbott's actions, accusing him of using migrants as a political stunt. This is part of the cruelty of a political stunt like this, said Lindsay Tosolowski, executive director and co-founder of the Immigrant Defenders Law Center, taking people who are in the middle of the most important process, a process of seeking asylum where their lives and the lives of their children are at stake, and sending them on a bus without any regard as to where their cases are going to be processed. So, apparently they didn't want as many of the asylum seekers as they claimed to have wanted. Alright, Dual Helix says after they chased off Roseanne, they changed the name to the Connors. Talking about the con, of course. And now Boomboxes is starting to move into the drag hour of things. Boomboxes says, I wonder what music they play at drag shows. A Tribe Called Quest. Can I lick it? Slick Lick, a children's story. Wonder if they like the rapper Old Dirty Bastard. Perhaps. Not quite sure where you're going with this, but I'm curious. I'm going to keep watching this. But we got to talk about Austin now. We're not going to get to the Target stuff, I don't think. Because we're going to have to do things I like and things I hate. Alright. From Fox News, Austin relocates people from homeless encampments to shelters after resident exposes environmental damage. From Bradford Betts, officials in Austin have begun relocating homeless people in the Gaines Creek area after a resident made headlines last week for exposing the encampment's environmental degradation. The city said Tuesday it's begun relocating people as part of an initiative to close out the homeless encampments that pose the highest public health and safety risks. Austin Mayor Pro Tem Paige Ellis said the need to relocate was very apparent after touring the encampment. There are many people living there, in immediate need of emergency shelter and resources, with evidence of campfires for cooking or warmth. Wildfire protection was a critical priority. No word on campgrounds, but the city said homeless people are voluntarily transferring from unsheltered encampments to city bridge shelters, where they are enrolled in longer-term housing programs. Officials said they plan to carry out an extensive cleanup of the encampment locations. The initiative comes after a Fox News Digital story last week reporting on a series of videos from Austin resident Jamie Hammonds showing environmental damage from a homeless encampment along the Violet Crown Trail. The video, shot by Hammonds himself, showed piles of trash littering the trail as far as the eye could see. Hammonds reported seeing cars, trailers, mountains of garbage, needles, human waste, and hundreds of homeless people. And this was done at 9:50 yesterday on this. So we can probably watch this. Let's manipulate the archive here for just a minute. So this is still from, this is a retweet, 4 hours ago. That's them commenting on the article itself. There we go. Kelsey Sanchez tweeting out, city officials have started clearing out homeless encampments here behind the Southtown Square Shopping Center. Most people who live here will be relocated to Northbridge Shelter. I talked to those behind the effort and a woman who's called this place home. Let's kill the volume here. And let's have a look at what we've got here. I'm towing the van that was being used for shelter out there. I mean, you see all the trash out here. The trash that they just put in a Ross shopping cart. Apparently, the people of Austin have never seen San Francisco and their homeless encampments, which make this look like a paradise, by the way. But I will say this, I am glad that it has taken so little. Because again, this is clean compared to San Francisco. to actually get somebody to come up and take notice and do something. I don't know what they're going to do except for a temporary shelter situation. But how long is that actually going to last? We will see. From Space News. Not green check verified. Just something I wanted to touch on briefly here. House FAA bill would give the agency new space traffic management role, from Jeff Faust. A bill introduced in the House to reauthorize the FAA includes a provision directing the agency to get involved in space traffic management, potentially duplicating ongoing work at the Commerce Department. I'll hold that thought for just a second. The bipartisan leadership of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee introduced the FAA reauthorization bill June 9th. The committee is scheduled to mark up the bill, advancing it to the full House on June 13th. One section, 600 pages, into a 773-page bill that, by the way, Massey and Rand are probably not going to complain about reading, is intended to address risks from orbital debris re-entering and passing through airspace. The bill refers to such objects as covered airborne debris, which is defined in the legislation as human-made objects once in orbit that have re-entered uncontrollably and pose a potential risk to safe flight of civilian aircraft and air commerce. The bill instructs the FAA to establish a program to track objects that are potential sources of covered airborne debris, with a focus on identifying those about to re-enter and could pose a risk to aircraft and airspace. The program would coordinate with the FAA's air traffic control system to identify airspace that needs to be closed for re-entry. Are you not already doing this? I feel like this is already being done. It would allow the FAA to establish its own space situational awareness facilities and work with other agencies, companies, or international organizations for data on such objects. I don't know, man. Once you give the federal government more power over stuff, they're really, really slow to give it back. But I feel like this is already being done. Because we don't really ever have a conversation about a news satellite hitting an airplane. Well, the government getting more power, I guess. Alright, we are at 1:38, so let's take one more quick look at the live chat and we'll move into things that I like and things that I hate for the night. We'll talk Target and whatnot tomorrow, or maybe on the makeup stream over the weekend. Let's see. Mogwai says Target is targeted on Friday. Yeah. So they traveled from some third world war-torn asshole country just to be sent to Los Angeles. That's cruel to the immigrants. Right, but Los Angeles swore up and down that they would take care of them too, so do keep that in mind. Motel 6 will keep the light on for them on the government's dime. Yes, yes they will. Over on the other side, Boomboxer says, for any trans, gays, or whoever might be in here, I'm just joking around, so chillax. I think the people who are in here probably have a thicker skin than you realize, or they're getting ready to protest me, one of the two. Dual Helix says, oh look, the results of your peer in division that he spots on TV all day. Spouts on TV all day, I'm guessing. Mrs. Brivefire trying to launch something that we can't track, or it failed and they didn't admit it. Huh. That could be. I don't know. We'll watch this. But for now, we're going to do some things that I like and some things that I hate. Things that I like today. We're going to start with something that popped up in the news on Monday while we were doing Contemporary, and I saved just for this occasion. Mr. Patrick Sajak, after 41 years of hosting The Wheel, is stepping down. His service is finished. Pat Sajak says, "Well, the time has come. I've decided that our 41st season, which begins in September, will be my last. It's been a wonderful ride. I'll have more to say in the coming months. Many thanks to you all. If nothing else, it'll keep the clickbait sites busy." So we don't have a lot of details about this yet as of this point, but it does look like Pat Sajak is stepping away. He's stepping down. Which is fantastic, honestly. I mean, the guy has had a storied career. He's probably one of the better known people on TV to this day. Even for people who don't watch TV anymore, because a lot of us have cut the cord. You show a picture of Sajak, and people know who it is. It's like Bob Barker. Which I don't even know if he's still alive. I got blocked from commenting after the comment, so I better be quiet now. Did you? Did Rumble do it? Because I didn't. Huh. I know Rumble does have some censorious aspects to it to keep it FCC compliant, but yeah, I didn't do anything about that. Bob Barker. Bob Barker is still alive, and if he makes it to December, he makes it to 100 years old. Robert William Barker, born December 12th, 1923. Bob Barker might make a century. Yeah, he's still alive, apparently. He was born in D.C., that explains a lot. Interesting. Sajak is probably going to make it for just as long. How old is Sajak? Sajak is 76. So he's getting up there too. Maybe he'll run for president. But yeah, he is going to be stepping down. Vanna White is going to remain turning the letters because most of her body is under the age of 18. So she's still got a long way to go. There's a lot of plastic surgery there. I can come back out and say that. And those two, by the way, have been working together for a very, very long time. But, you know, growing up, seeing The Wheel, you know, we've all watched this, and this was all affected by us. Wheel of Fortune was huge in the culture. There are even Discord stickers involving a famous scene from South Park on Wheel of Fortune. I know, they have it in the Porch Boys Discord. And Midget B enjoys using it a lot. So Godspeed, Pat Sajak. I hope you enjoy the rest of your golden years at this point. Alright, what else do we have? Let's get the live chat back up here. From the Daily Wire, WAPO desperately tries to spin Bud Light's massive plummet in sales. That's right. The machine is afraid. From Virginia Kruta. The Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, attempted to spin Bud Light's rapid descent in popularity as an organic change rather than a response to the brand's short-lived but disastrous partnership with Dylan Mulvaney. Bud Light sales fall in the U.S. as Mexico Modelo gains popularity. The headline read, On an article published Wednesday, but the sub-headline suggested that even though the brand has been targeted by boycotts, it had likely lost its perch as America's most popular beer because of longer-term trend. Bud Light has been targeted by a recent boycott, but consumers might be moving away from the brand amid stagnation for domestic beer in general, the outlet tweeted. Critics immediately pointed to the extremely rapid drop-off in sales, which had coincided almost exactly with a partnership with Mulvaney and the brand's decision to place 2 marketing executives connected to said partnership on leave, and said that to suggest the two weren't connected required a level of disbelief that they could just muster. That's right. But the Washington Post needs to, in order for circulation and to shape the narrative, needs you to believe that this all happened organically. And it just has nothing to do one thing for the other. It's the same reason they don't release the manifesto, which we'll be talking about in just a bit. And by the way, of course, it's Tim Pool doing the commenting on that. But they want to convince you, of course, that this is only happening because it's not happening because of the agenda. So stop worrying about this, companies. Keep flying your pride flag out there. And then when people stop buying there, we can still call them hateful. I've noticed a lot less rainbow around the area, by the way, too, which is nice. I haven't been to a lot of the companies on the infamous board. I haven't seen whether or not there's a bunch of rainbow stuff there, but I know, like I said, the MLB, I started watching the Sox again. Because the MLB took their logo, or took the rainbow rather, off their logo almost immediately. But one thing from the other side that I do want to talk about, and most people would actually think this would be in things that I hate, this is actually in things that I like for a reason. And this is on purpose, by the way. I'm not just juxtaposing this against the Washington Post being in full panic. This is something I actually believe is real and good. Garth Brooks doubles down on selling Bud Light. Come in with love and acceptance. This has no author given from TMZ. Garth Brooks has heard all the noise about him promising to sell Bud Light at his new Nashville bar, and he's here to put out the fire by again vowing Bud Light will be on tap. The country star hopped on camera Monday to address the stir that had been caused by his comments last week, namely where he alluded to the fact that he'd be serving the now controversial Anheuser-Busch brand at his forthcoming honky tonk on Broadway. Good. Absolutely. Now, however much money you lose over some of it going stale, because a lot of people who frequent your bar are not going to buy it, that's between you and your financial planners. But the fact that you're keeping the option open for people to do that, like, there are 5 bars just straight down the street from me, and I've been in 3 of them since the controversy started. And what I'll say about this is the fact that they've all got Bud Light still in the cooler. And they've all still got it on tap. And occasionally, people are actually buying it. Now, the Miller and the Coors are flying off the shelf faster. The Trulies and the White Claws are flying off the shelf faster. And I see a lot more mixers than I'm used to seeing in this. But the people still have the option. I would almost be a little bit more averse if Garth Brooks had come out and said, no, I'm not going to sell this horrible trans beer. Because there are people who are still going to want it. There are people who are either completely uninitiated, don't know about the controversy, or just are really, really, really brand loyal. I have a cousin who is really brand loyal like that. I don't even think he knows about the controversy. I bet you he's still drinking it. The vast majority of people aren't. And again, that's going to be between you and your financial planner as for what you do with the spoilage, because beer does have a shelf life. But the fact that you're still giving the people the option, that's fine by me. Take it up with your financial planner. And yes, you are going to have some customers that won't come into your bar because you even propose to sell it. But for the most part, there are still going to be people who want to drink that. I don't know why, but there's still going to be. In today's news of You Get What You Deserve, from the New York Post in their section of relationships segment, I'm a liberal, and it's hard to find masculine men to date who aren't conservative. From Jeanette Settembre. Well, Jeanette, don't you know that you're not even supposed to want the masculine men because that's toxic masculinity? A single woman has made waves for lamenting on TikTok that all the chivalrous masculine men in her dating orbit are conservative. As a liberal woman, it's really hard to find a man who is willing to play the more traditional masculine role in the relationship in today's day and age who is not a conservative, said the TikToker with the username Miss Petch. I'm not a conservative. I'm probably about as masculine as you are looking for. But I'm not full-in liberal either, so I'm probably not on your radar either. In fact, you probably could believe me to be conservative because I'm anti-government. A man who wants to pay for the first date, who wants to open your door, who has that wanted desire to take care of you and provide, who is not a conservative. That's because that's a very conservative ideal. The liberal movement in this country has spent 50 years trying to break down the traditional gender norms. And again, I remind you that if you are truly as liberal as you say you are, you're not even supposed to want that masculinity in the traditional gender role. It was actually a really hard sticking point at the beginning of the second time I was engaged, when we were first dating, when we first met. Because my fiance did move into a very, very traditionally gender role position. But that wasn't the way that she was when we met. And it's not something I tried to impose on her either. It's just something that she turned out wanting to do towards the end of our relationship. She wanted to be home, be wifey, and that actually was not something I was ready for at that point in my life, because I was really young and really stupid. But my second fiance was a full-on third waver when I met her. The LA woman. Isn't there a Doors song like that? The LA woman said that the men she's dated who do have those quality traits don't align with her political ideologies. And she clarified that just because she wants an old-fashioned gentleman doesn't mean she plans to subscribe to traditional housewife role. Okay, so I don't really see what your end game is here then. And obviously, as a liberal woman, I do want to be respected for my independence. I do want to have my own autonomy in the relationship and not be combined or confirmed to the traditional female homemaker childbearing role, she said. I don't want to compromise my morals and values just to find a man, but I'm asking to have my cake. Am I asking to have my cake and eat it too? Yes, you are. And by the way, again, you get what you deserve. And again, I am not a conservative. Miss Petch, I will take you out. We'll have dinner together. I'll buy you dinner. We'll have a conversation. We'll see what it goes. You are probably going to hate a lot of what I have to say on politics. But give it a shot. If anybody knows how to reach out to this person on TikTok, let's get the two of us in contact here. I don't believe in splitting the bill on a first date. In fact, not the last date that I went on, the second to last date that I went on. The girl was so, well, she was out of her mind to begin with, but so loudly adamant of splitting the bill. And like legitimately angry about it, I just let her do it. But I had every intention of walking into that place and paying for her and, well, her chaperone too, because it was that bad of a date. Looks like we actually have... We have the TikTok here. Let me get some volume to this, so we can actually listen to what she has to say. Potentially. I know this typically takes a while on this. Participating in this activity could result in you or others getting hurt. Okay, usually this plays. I'm going to try to reload this and see if we can get it to go. Let's see.
Saddest realizations I recently had was that as a liberal woman, it is really hard to find a man who is willing to play the more traditional masculine role in the relationship in today's day and age, who is not a conservative. A man who wants to pay on the first date, who wants to open your door, who has that want and desire to take care of you and to provide, who is not a conservative. And obviously, as a liberal woman, I do want to be respected for my independence. And I do want to have my own autonomy in the relationship and not be confined or conform to the traditional female homemaker, childbearing role. And most of the men that I've dated who do have that more natural provider masculinity about them are normally conservative. So I don't really know what to do because I don't want to compromise my morals and values just to find a man. But am I asking to have my cake and eat it too?
Yes. Yes, you are. Your first problem, get the fuck out of LA. Good God. But yeah, Miss Petch, call me. Let's do something about this. Alright. What else do we have? More things that I like. So Reddit actually got into the news a little bit over the past week, and I'm not really a fan of Reddit. But when your platform gets compromised and you boycott, they do take notice. So from NPC News, reading on this one today, Reddit communities go private to protest pricing plan for apps. From David Ingram, Reddit, the online forum that popularizes a major share of the world's memes and viral content, was the target of mass protest on Monday. Major subreddits, the message boards on the site devoted to various topics, locked out users to broadcast their disapproval of Reddit's plans to charge third-party apps that rely on the site with a hefty new fee. Hundreds of subreddits, including the highly ranked subreddits rgaming, rblind, and rmusic, participated in the protest by turning on private mode. The action prevented new users from freely joining these communities and limited Reddit's ability to feature their posts. The rebellion could be a watershed moment for Reddit, the company that has struggled to turn a consistent profit for its owners despite a long history as one of the most visited and influential sites on the internet. The San Francisco company is aiming to raise revenue and cut costs ahead of a planned initial public offering of stock. Yeah, how's that working out for you? Because it sounds like you're losing a lot of your user base. The protest is over one of Reddit's efforts to bring in more money. While many people use the official app or website, others get a similar experience through apps made by third-party software developers that use Reddit's API. Under a plan that Reddit announced in April after it learned that its data was being used to train potentially lucrative artificial intelligence chatbots, such as ChatGPT, those third parties would at some point need to pay large fees for access. One moderator with rgaming, the number 3 subreddit with 37 million members, said the blackout shows where Reddit's values come from. A very small percentage of the users are power users, and they generate the content, they generate the value, and they perform a lot of the free moderation. The user Tyler's Burden, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because he does not use his real name online, said in a phone interview. Reddit's management said that he said had disenchanted and disillusioned the real people who provide the value for Reddit. So I don't know what any of this means, honestly, because I don't use Reddit. I've been on Reddit on desktop a handful of times, but I don't care for the message board style of things, honestly. So I don't use it, so I don't know what the API is or what the third-party apps are for it. But again, I like the fact, and this goes along with the Bud Light thing, when your company, the company that you use, and you've used a certain way for a long time, is changing, and you don't like the way that it changes, you have a voice. You can stop using it. You can show them that you're displeased by just walking away for a second. No bricks have to be thrown. No fires have to be started. You just walk away from it. Many of you all at the same time. And the company's going to stand up and take notice. Alright, now let's do some things that I hate. The Daily Record reporting on this one, not green check verified. But I thought it might be worthwhile to touch on this because, well, just like when we talked about with the satellites coming down and the new agency to go back and take care of that, and the cyber attack, this sounds a lot more like a way to crack down on something that the Uniparty doesn't like. NASA mission to stop internet apocalypse that could halt online access for months. Could that be, by the way, maybe in September of 2024, perhaps? That we're going to stop online access for months? September, maybe October of 2024? Maybe that'll stay that way up until December of 2024. Should probably go back and check on chat here because you guys are going crazy over here. 80s Kid says, my parents were born in 33 and they passed years ago, so he's done well, to Bob Barker. 80s Kid says, maybe if Bud Light just apologized, that would have gone a long way, but they double pissed their customers off. They're blaming the extreme right wing, and all they have done is gone and shopped somewhere else. At least they haven't smashed it up like our friends on the left. Yeah, absolutely. Over on the Rumble side, Dual Helix says, I thought Rumble blocked my oh look comment. Its conjugation was wrong and had typos, so I might have confused the AI. Dual Helix used to love watching Jeopardy with his mom. Yeah, alcohol and politics, terrible idea. Nobody can put up with the liberal woman's shenanigans. I'll try. I can fix her. Dual Helix says, she seems clueless. Who's driving? I don't know. I thought maybe she was. Dual Helix thinks that's a man. I don't think so. Boomboxa says she can get her man to have the baby. I mean, men can't get pregnant now, right? Dual Helix is banned from Reddit. I'm not entirely surprised, by the way. Not that it's hard to get banned from Reddit anyway. Boomboxa says, Reddit is pure garbage. I used to go on there, but gets too spicy and they start crying. Wonder if there's a safe space on Reddit for the super wah snowflakes. Perhaps. So, anyway, going back to this, NASA is saying that there's going to be an internet apocalypse, and it's going to knock out internet for months as we come into a major election. And we won't have any way to go back and see what happens till after the counting is done. I don't think it's going to get knocked out for months. I think it's going to be for 3 or 4 days around Election Day this year. And then we'll come back and we'll think, oops, oh, it looks like Biden won in a landslide again. From Gizmodo, Pornhub begs users to put down the tissues and contact their legislators. from Lucas Ropek. Pornhub did something fairly unusual this week. Instead of encouraging its Slack-jawed users to keep their eyes glued to an endless stream of debauchery, the adult site instead begged them to get off the couch, quit jerking it, and reach out to their elected officials. Why is one of the world's biggest smut distributors encouraging its user base to get more civically engaged to fight profit-curbing regulations, of course. In recent months, a slew of conservative legislatures have passed age verification laws that would force users of adult sites to prove that they're 18. The idea is to protect children from being exposed to potentially harmful material at an early age. In Utah, where one such law was recently enacted, adult sites are now required to provide reasonable age verification methods to their users, the likes of which involve digitally submitting a state-issued ID to adult sites before content can be accessed. As a result of the new law, which would also hold companies liable if they deliver adult content to minors, Pornhub recently pulled its service out of Utah entirely. Which, goes along the same lines as the drag parades, and the pride parades, and the furry conventions in Florida. If I can't serve up my content to minors, I'm just going to take my ball and go home. That's what this looks like, and that's why I hate this. If I can't get little boys hooked on porn from the time that their balls drop, I'm just not going to serve in your state anymore. Who's the target audience here? And I understand the pain of trying to put a state-issued ID up somewhere to go back and use a site. I've been waffling on doing Twitter verification for a while. Because I don't want them to have my ID, but you've also got an epidemic of kids going in here and little boys, their lives being ruined over the fact that they can't stop jerking it. I remember, and I was in that age bracket back when internet porn started becoming a thing. And yeah, I was the kid. Massive sex drive. My fiance, because of a mixture of antidepressants, did not have as high of one as I did. So I was going to stuff like that. And the age verification, and that was at a time when there used to be age verification. Major age verification, you had to put a credit card in to access any of these sites at the time, or hope that there was enough of a free preview somewhere on one of the file sharing sites and hope you didn't get a virus that came with it. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And then Pornhub came through and changed the entire process of everything. And yeah, made it easier for the young kids to go back and get on there. Most of them now just have a big banner at the front that says, "Yes, I'm 18, please let me in." No verification whatsoever. So, yeah, I hate this. I hate this with a passion. But also, again, if users in the early 2000s, at the advent of the internet, could figure out how to age verify, why can't you? Other things that I hate today. To my neighbors to the south, grocery and gas taxes set to rise in Illinois next month, from Joey Schneider. Well, taxation is theft, so obviously there's a reason that I hate this. 2 weekly tasks going to the grocery store and filling up your gas tanks are about to get more expensive in Illinois. By July 1st, Illinois will reinstate a 1% tax on groceries and bump the state's gas tax another 3.1 cents a gallon. Last year, Illinois suspended its grocery tax as part of a $46.5 billion state budget plan to combat inflation. Yeah, how'd that work for you? The state also paused a plan to raise gas taxes for 6 months, though that came with a 3.1 cent increase per gallon on New Year's Day and another 3.1 cent per gallon in July. State officials estimated last year's suspended grocery sales tax would save taxpayers up to $400 million. The freeze came at a time when the consumer price index for groceries rose around 7%. That could rise another 4 to 8% by the end of 2023. Supermarket News says Illinois is one of 13 states with a grocery sales tax. That's why so many of them come to this state to come back and go grocery shopping. Though it has the lowest one among the states that enforce them, the suspended tax only applied to food and drinks that are meant to be consumed off-site, aside from candy, soda, and liquor. As for gas, J.B. Pritzker signed a law in 2019 that doubled the state's gas tax from 19 cents to 38 cents that year, and will lead to a 3.1% rise in the gas tax every year, unless otherwise announced. It's part of an infrastructure plan to help improve the roads, which still suck, by the way. So there you go, another reason to leave Illinois. This one, I archived this one because I was actually afraid that this guy was going to block me, because I called him out on this here. John Oberlin tweeting out, "All this crap about MAGA having a civil war for Trump is bullshit. First, they're basically cowards, which they're not. Second, they're too broke to travel. Third, they're too dumb. And fourth, with a few fire hoses and a little vaccine or LGBTQI DNA mixed in will make them run." So I opened the article from the Mercury, and it is so deep behind a paywall, you can't read this as a normal person. But archive.today to the rescue reveals how propagandist this actually is. And by the way, with this being so deep into the paywall, I guarantee you nobody who was commenting in that thread even read this. I read it because I archived it. It's a short little blurb that uses 4chan as a source. Trump supporters are making threats of civil war following the news of his indictment for allegedly taking classified documents from the White House without permission in 2021. His attorney, Jim Trusty, said Trump is charged under the Espionage Act. Trump announced himself on Truth Social. His supporters are making violent threats online and calling for civil war, specifically on the Donald, which, by the way, is a 4chan thread, which means it's anonymous, which means you don't know who's out here calling for the civil war at this point. And after everything we've seen with the Discord servers that had the two shooters both in the same Discord server, and beliefs that Audrey Hale was also in the same Discord server with the federal agent, I'm going to tell you right off the bat that this smells like this glows in the dark for me. But the moron who is using 4chan as a source makes this blurb, hides it behind a paywall, and then uses it in a tweet to say, "They're calling for a civil war and they're cowards." What a moron, by the way. And I archived this and I put it in the thread and I said, hey, read what this moron is putting here. Don't just take the headline from it because you can't get behind the paywall. Actually read what this idiot has to say. And don't give him an ad click either. Yeah, that's right. Helix says the chains are more than half glowies. Speaking of social media, causing outrage over nothing, Jean Wu. "Oh, would you look at that? Another non-drag queen busted for sexually abusing kids. What's the score for abusing kids now? Drag shows 0. Religious leaders, 88,659. Which, and again, the point for the drag shows is not the idea of them abusing kids. And yeah, there are some of them that do that. Your drag show 0 is not an accurate number. But we don't want the kids exposed to the heavily sexualized drag show. We want them to maintain their innocence. It's not that we think that the straight man who decides it's funny to wear the big fake boobs and the long nails and the 12-inch high heels is going to screw the kids on stage in the drag show. It's the fact that now the kid comes back and asks the question, "Mommy, why are the boobs so big? Why is this man dressed as a lady?" Whereas they don't need to be exposed to this kind of thing. The only dude dressed as a lady that a kid at 7 years old needs to be exposed to is Bugs Bunny. Honestly. So it's not about the abuse, it's about the exposure. And by the way, take this missionary and into the wood chipper feet first. 25 for abusing a preschooler and giving that preschooler an STD. Straight to the wood chipper with you. No questions, no appeals. In you go. And in the same token, GLAAD, Twitter is the worst major social media platform when it comes to LGBTQ plus safety, says GLAAD. Just a brief little look into Elon Man bad. All major social media platforms do poorly at protecting LGBTQI, RAMIGI, XTBY, AEIOU users from hate speech and harassment, especially those who are transgender, non-binary, or gender non-conforming, the advocacy group GLAAD said on Thursday. But Twitter was the worst. Yeah, Elon Man bad. And they go into this right in the third paragraph. Twitter, which was acquired by Tesla CEO Elon Musk last October, was the only exception. GLAAD's card called it the most dangerous platform for LGBTQI, RAMIGI, XTBY, AEIOU people. And the only one that saw its scores decline from last year to 33% from 45% a year ago. Elon Man bad. I got more stuff that I hate too. This one, I've got a tweet and an article that goes with it. Mimi Jokel says not one contestant on Jeopardy last night knew the answer to this. Now she thinks that this is a denial of Christianity, which there's an aspect to this, but because that's why she asked the question, are you waking up yet? But, I mean, the ignorance of pop culture on top of it here. The answer, Matthew 6:9, chapter 6, verse 9 says, Our Father which art in heaven, this be thy name. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes before we go on to the article, just briefly. And you remember, if you answer in the chat, you have to answer in the form of a question. Matthew chapter 6, verse 9 says, Our Father which art in heaven, this be thy name. Give you a minute. Give you a minute. Dual Helix got it. What is hallowed? You don't even need to be a Christian to know that. You just need to be a fan of Cradle of Filth. Or Judas Priest. Is it Judas Priest? I'm going to fact check myself. I think it's Judas Priest. Iron Maiden, sorry, not Judas Priest. You have to just be a fan of Iron Maiden to know that one. Hallowed Be Thy Name is one of their biggest songs. I say, forgetting the fact that it was Iron Maiden, not Judas Priest, that sang the song originally. From The Blaze, viewers expressed shock that Jeopardy contestants couldn't solve elementary Bible knowledge clue about the Lord's Prayer. From Alex Nitzberg. People reacted with shock after 3 contestants on an episode of the long-running Jeopardy quiz show were apparently stumped by an elementary Bible knowledge-related question. None of the 3 players rang in to respond when host Mayim Bialik presented a clue that read, Matthew 6:9 says, Our Father, which art in heaven, this be thy name. After the apparently clueless contestants failed to offer a response, Amy Farrah Fowler supplied the answer. Hallowed be thy name, but she didn't answer in the form of a question, at least according to the way The Blaze had it written. Let's watch.
Matthew 6:9 says, Our Father which art in heaven, this be thy name. Hallowed be thy name.
Hold on.
This is Jeopardy!
Matthew 6:9 says, Our Father which art in heaven, this be thy name.
Okay, I'm looking at these scores, and these three contestants aren't really that bright to begin with. When I see two contestants on Jeopardy with negative scores, I wouldn't call this an indictment of America. I'm going to be completely honest here. I think they just found stupid people to come back and be on Jeopardy. Alright, the last three that we have here from WKRN.com, legal filing details why the Covenant School parents don't want the shooter's manifesto released. In a legal filing obtained by News 2, parents of students who attend the Covenant School urged the court not to release the shooter's writings to the public, though they did not object to the release of some of the documents and a summary of the events. This court can shield Jane Doe from John Doe from a lifetime of abuse and harassment by the shooter from beyond the grave. The attorneys for the parents say the parents believe that the large tranche of documents they do not object to will provide the public with the information needed to understand the horrific crime. In the 18-page document, the parents explain that they don't want any of the shooter's writings or documents to be released, nor do they want any photos or information of the children themselves released. Now see, a redacted version of the photos of the children, I can understand if you go back and redact the faces of the children out of there. There's no compelling state interest in giving voice to the horrendous criminal, the parents' attorneys wrote in the document. Except for the fact that this is probably damning to the LGBTQIRAMIGIXTBY AEIOU community, especially the T part. And again, a reminder that within minutes of Buffalo, that document was everywhere on the internet. And we all read it. I had it on my desktop for months before I finally closed it. And I read it front to back. So no, we're actually never going to see this thing. Aren't you excited? The document from the leftoid we're never going to even get to see. But if there's remotely anything about the Jews in the document, it is public shareware everywhere. And everybody gets to read it. And the last two that I hate, which are actually related to each other. First off, scientists report creation of first human synthetic model embryos from Brenda Goodman. So we are going to be playing God, and I knew this was going to happen, and I kind of figured it was going to happen in my lifetime. A team of researchers in the US and the UK say they've created the world's first synthetic human embryo-like structures from stem cells, bypassing the need for eggs and sperm. These embryo-like structures are the very earliest stages of human development. They don't have a beating heart or a brain, for example, but scientists say they could one day help advance the understanding of genetic diseases, or the causes of miscarriages, or designer babies, or synthetic humans, by the way. And just so you know, this is the plot of Fallout 4, starting to unfold. The pace of discoveries in this field and the growing sophistication of these models have alarmed bioethics experts as they push ever closer to the edge of life. Unlike human embryos arising from in vitro fertilization, where there's an established legal framework, there are currently no clear regulations governing stem cell-derived models of human embryos. There's an urgent need for regulations to provide a framework for the creation and use of stem cell-derived models of human embryos, James Briscoe, Associate Research Director at the Francis Crick Institute, said in a statement. Dr. Magdalena Zernicka-Getz described the work in presentation on Wednesday to the International Society for Stem Cell Research annual meeting in Boston, Zernicka Getz, a professor of biology and biological engineering at Caltech and the University of Cambridge, said the research has been accepted at a well-regarded scientific journal, but has not been published. The research was first reported by The Guardian. Well, as Ian Malcolm said, we're in a situation where just because we could doesn't mean that we should. I know I butchered that quote, by the way. The embryo-like structures that Zernicka Getz said her lab created were grown from a single human embryonic stem cell that were coaxed to develop into 3 distinct tissue layers, she said. They include cells that would typically go on to develop a yolk sac, placenta, and the embryo itself. She told CNN that the embryo-like structures her lab created are also the first to have germ cells that could go on to develop into egg and sperm. I just wish to stress that these are not human embryos, they're embryo models, but they're very exciting because they're very looking similar to human embryos and very important path towards discovery of why so many pregnancies fail, as the majority of the pregnancies fail around the time of the development at which we build these embryo-like structures. I don't know, man. This seems like a road too far for me. Maybe I'm old-fashioned and I just think that playing God is not going to have good repercussions. And the very last one, which has been a question, by the way, of slavery for a long time. California moves to provide surrogates to gay male couples in the name of fertility equality. The words government-mandated broodmare come to mind. Co-author of the bill, Senator Carolyn Menjivar, said the bill would ensure that queer couples no longer have to pay more out of pocket to start families than non-queer families. Is that a thing? I'm so confused right now. California Bill SB 729 seeks to redefine infertility to be a status as opposed to a medical condition, changing the definition to a person's inability to reproduce either as an individual or with their partner without medical intervention would classify gay men as infertile. The bill, which passed the Senate last month, would require insurance companies to cover in vitro. With the change in definition, this would also include forcing the firms to cover surrogacy for gay males. Co-author of the bill, Senator Karen Menjivar, said the bill would ensure that queer couples no longer have to pay more out of pocket to start families than non-queer families. This bill is critical to achieving full lived equality for the LGBTQIRA-MIGI-XTBYAEIOU sometimes Y people, as well as advancing well-rounded and comprehensive health care for all Californians. An organization called Men Having Babies boasted that the bill will remove financial barriers for gay men who wish to rent a woman's womb. I can't believe I'm reading any of this. Where's the giant meteor? Who wish to rent a woman's womb to have a child has the DNA of one of the males in the relationship. The group states on its website, central to our fight for more equitable access to the parenting options is what we know from our combined experiences, the anguish and yearning that same-sex couples and singles feel due to the inability to reproduce without medical intervention is equal to the anguish of heterosexual couples who suffer from medical infertility. According to the Free Beacon, the opposition to SB 729 comes from a California business and insurance groups who claim that it will raise insurance premiums by more than $330 million a year. Others point to the erosion of the traditional family structure. Yeah, there are going to be those who go to the traditional family structure, but when your state is providing you a woman, which I hope is voluntary, if you can't find one on your own, this is going down a path that we should not be going down. Especially in California, dude. This is one of the most homosexual-friendly states in the Union. If you cannot go back out and find some woman to hear your sob story and rent or offer her womb up for free to carry your child in California, you are doing something seriously wrong. This is going down a path that I don't think we need to be going down. Yeah, womb lords. Alright. I am completely black-pilled. Between playing God with the embryos and California offering to force someone to carry your child for you. Which is, by the way, the direction that this goes. We're done. I can't do this anymore. I can't. When I see stuff like this, I have to wonder if this is going to be Masterpiece Cake all over again. Except with a uterus. Where the couple goes by 17 perfectly liberal, willing participants to go back and say, I want that Christian one to carry our kid. Is that the direction this goes, really? And again, the fact that they can't find someone to do it for free in California. Why? Why are we like this? I need to go watch some video game stream to clear my palate of this. I can't even listen to Shapiro tonight after this. Let's head out of here for the night. I know Quest Fanning once told me that I should probably start with things that I hate and finish off with things that I like. But really, it makes sense to start and go the other way. Especially if we are so black-pilled from the news. We need a bit of a palate cleanser before we come back into stuff like this. Can you imagine, just for a second, talking about Joe Biden and how he's going to get off scot-free for bribery while Trump goes to prison for political reasons? And then going straight into this? There is a reason that we do this the way that we do. Let's head out of here for the night. I can't do this anymore. Alright, well, with that, we're done. We're out of here. Thank you, everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. It's been a great time, up until I got black-pilled at the very end. Hope to see you guys here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. I know we're going to try to talk about Target. We've got a slurry of news to talk about that we've had left over for the rest of the week, so we will see if we can get through that tomorrow, but I think we do need to do a makeup stream on Saturday, so come back and join me for that. It's going to be a great time. Definitely looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully we can have some good news tomorrow. We really do, because we really need it at this point. And we will see you here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Who are we going to go raid? Let's find something enjoyable, because that was bad. That did a number on me. I see Mary Mac playing Fallout 3. That's not one that I follow, but I like Fallout 3. DC being in a radioactive wasteland? I need that after this. So if you are on the Twitch side, come back and join me. We're going to go follow Mary Mac into Fallout 3. and see the utter destruction in a video game, literally, of Washington, D.C. So come and join me for that. Otherwise, we will see you here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Looking forward to that. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.